Suspect last seen heading south towards the park. All units use caution. Scene secured?
Almost. I need eyes on the far tree line.
Copy that. Send to SoCo. We have a confirmed fatality.
Check near that marker again.
I'm looking, sir. Still clear over here.
Catherine Katie Janness was born on September 4, 1980 in Berkeley, Michigan, a small, tight-knit suburb sitting northwest of Detroit. It was the kind of neighborhood where children ran freely between yards, where adults watched out for each other's kids, and where life moved at a quiet, comfortable pace. Katie grew up in that warmth, the older of two daughters, born to Mark and Bobby Janness. Her childhood broke apart when she was just 8 years old. Her father, Mark Janness, had been living with his girlfriend after separating from her mother. That girlfriend was locked in a bitter custody dispute with her ex-husband, and Mark, protective and volatile, took matters into his own hands. On the night of June 9, 1989, he shot the ex-husband 5 times as the man stepped out of his car after returning home from work. The man died on his own front lawn. Mark was arrested within the hour, convicted of murder, and sentenced to life in prison. Katie was left to grow up without her father, raised by her mother in the same Michigan suburb that had once felt so safe. Despite this trauma, Katie carved out a life defined by creativity, connection, and resilience. She gravitated toward music and people. In her mid-20s, around 2006, she packed up and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, drawn by the city's energy, its art scene, and its sense of possibility. She found her footing in Midtown Atlanta, working as a bartender, a job that suited her personality perfectly. She was warm, funny, sharp, and genuinely interested in the people around her. Friends and regulars at the bar she worked adored her. She became a fixture of the neighborhood. By 2021, Katie was 40 years old and settled into a life she had built entirely on her own terms. She had been with her partner, Emma Clark, for 7 years. They shared an apartment on Myrtle Street in Midtown Atlanta. They had a dog together, a 3-year-old pit bull mix named Bowie, who was devoted to both of them and went nearly everywhere Katie went. Life was ordinary in the best possible way. And then, on a warm summer night in late July, it ended. On the evening of July 27, 2021, Katie and Emma had dinner together at home. Afterward, Katie decided to take Bowie for a walk. This was completely routine. She walked him regularly through the neighborhood and through Piedmont Park, Atlanta's most beloved urban green space, which sat just a short distance from their apartment. But that night, Katie had a small surprise in mind. Emma was working a shift at Henry's Midtown Tavern, a nearby bar, and Katie planned to stop by and see her. She leashed up Bowie, left the apartment, and walked through the familiar tree-lined streets of Midtown. She made her way toward the Charles Allen Gate, the entrance to Piedmont Park at 10th Street and Charles Allen Drive, one of the park's main pedestrian entry points. A security camera mounted outside the park on a nearby Midtown building captured her walking with Bowie that night. It is the last known image of Katie Janness alive. She entered the park. What happened next, no one who survived knows. Emma Clark finished her shift and returned home expecting to find Katie there. She wasn't. Katie wasn't answering her texts. The minutes stretched, and Emma's unease turned to alarm. She opened the Find My app on her phone and tracked Katie's location. The signal came back from inside Piedmont Park. Emma ran to the park. At 1:11 in the morning on July 28, 2021, she found her partner's body near the Charles Allen Gate entrance. She called 911, barely able to form words. "She's dead," Emma told the dispatcher. "She's here at Piedmont Park. Please help." Officers arrived within minutes and found Katie's body with catastrophic stab wounds. Approximately 100 feet away, they found Bowie, also stabbed to death. The scene was described by the first responders and investigators who saw it as one of the most brutal they had ever encountered. The Fulton County Medical Examiner released the official autopsy report in November 2021, and the findings laid bare the full horror of what Katie endured in her final moments. She had been stabbed more than 50 times. The wounds were concentrated across her face, neck, chest, back, arms, and hands. She had clearly fought back, as the injuries to her arms and hands indicated defensive wounds. She had been stabbed at least 15 times in the head alone. She also suffered blunt force trauma severe enough to damage major blood vessels and internal organs. The chief medical examiner, Dr. Karen Sullivan, concluded in the report that Katie died as a direct result of the sharp force injuries to her face, neck, and torso. Her death was ruled a homicide. Most disturbing of all was one specific detail that set this case apart from ordinary violence. The letters F, A, and T had been carved into Katie's torso. The word fat deliberately, methodically cut into her body after the attack or during it. This detail pointed investigators toward the possibility of a personal motive, a killer who knew Katie or who had fixated on her in some way. It suggested not random violence, but something targeted and deeply intentional. A necropsy was also performed on Bowie. Investigators hoped that the dog, loyal and protective by nature, had bitten or scratched the attacker during the assault, potentially leaving the killer's DNA behind in or around the dog's mouth and body. The results of that necropsy were never released to the public. What made the investigation exponentially more difficult was a fact that emerged almost immediately after the murder and stunned the city of Atlanta. The security cameras inside Piedmont Park, cameras that should have captured everything, had been completely non-functional on the night Katie was killed. They were inactive due to outdated technology. They had not been removed or replaced because city officials believed that even broken cameras served a deterrent purpose. Their physical presence, it was reasoned, might discourage crime. That reasoning did nothing for Katie Janness. Investigators attempted to extract whatever data might remain on the devices, but recovered nothing usable. No footage, no images, no record of who entered or exited the park that night. The one external midtown camera that had captured Katie walking toward the park was the extent of the visual evidence available to police. New cameras were finally installed inside Piedmont Park in April 2022, 9 months after the murder. The Atlanta Police Department's homicide unit took lead on the case, but they were quickly joined by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In a press conference on August 5, 2021, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis stood before cameras and acknowledged the weight of public expectation. "We know that this is an important crime," she said, "and we know that the public is watching and waiting." Investigators combed through Piedmont Park for physical evidence. They analyzed cell phone data from the area, hoping to identify devices that had been present in the park during the window of the attack, estimated to be somewhere between 11 p.m. on July 27 and 1 a.m. on July 28. They canvassed the surrounding neighborhood, asking residents and businesses to check their private security cameras. A photograph of Katie walking Bowie near the park, taken from that external midtown camera, was released publicly in hopes someone might recognize the figure of the killer nearby. No one came forward with definitive information. The absence of an arrest created a vacuum that the internet quickly filled. Emma Clark, Katie's partner, the woman who had loved her for 7 years and had been the one to find her body, became the target of online suspicion and harassment. People who had never met either woman sent Emma death threats. She received a voicemail from a stranger calling her vile names and threatening her. She bought a gun to protect herself. The Atlanta Police Department never officially named Emma Clark as a suspect, and she was never charged with anything. Meanwhile, a Facebook group called The Solution to the Katie Janness Case grew to over 500 members. Some were Katie's actual friends and coworkers, people who had sat beside her at a bar or shared a stage with her during a show. Others were strangers drawn in by the brutality of the case and the mystery surrounding it. Together, they filed public records requests, compiled theories,
trying to win the
shared
midterms
surveillance
by making it
images,
harder
and
for the
kept the
people who
story
voted for
alive
him
in the
to vote.
spaces where official
Senate
investigations
Republicans are
had gone
furious.
quiet. As of April 5, 2026, nearly 5 years after Katie Janness was murdered inside one of Atlanta's most public and beloved spaces, no arrest has been made. No suspect has been named publicly. No official motive has been confirmed. The Atlanta Police Department has reaffirmed that the investigation remains active and ongoing, with DNA evidence serving as the central focus of their efforts. In collaboration with the FBI, investigators continue to work the forensic angle, hoping that advances in DNA technology or a new tip from the public will finally produce the lead the case has lacked for half a decade. In July 2025, the reward for information leading to an arrest and indictment was increased to $25,000, a sign that investigators remain serious about solving the case even as the years accumulate. Inside Piedmont Park, in the dog park where Katie and Bowie used to spend lazy afternoons together, a bench now sits in their memory. People pass it every day. Joggers, dog walkers, couples, children, most of them unaware of the story it carries. The bench sits quietly in the place that knew her best, in a park that kept no record of the night she was taken from it. The cameras that failed her have been replaced. The city has moved on in the way cities always do. But the question at the center of this case, who killed Katie Janness and why, remains unanswered. 50 stab wounds, 3 carved letters, a dog killed 100 feet away, a partner who ran through the dark to find her, and after 5 years, only silence where answers should be.